Welcome back. On so many levels in the year 2018, we are of good fortune that mental health is a conversation that is growing in all segments of our society. And I'm excited for this upcoming conversation because I've had a similar conversation just a couple of days ago in speaking about mental wellness and about the inner mental game across many, many different sports. On Saturday, it was baseball. This morning, it's basketball, but of course, it's so much larger than any one particular sport. I'm pleased to be joined by Dr. Corey Yeager and Jared Dubois. They are working with the Delon Wright basketball camp that's going on this week. They have a very important event this evening, a panel discussion that I'm excited to learn more, and we're fortunate to get to share with you. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
First off, thanks for tackling this issue. Dr. Yeager, you're certainly with your background and education a person who should be leading this charge and leading this conversation. Talk a little bit about what it's like for you in 2018 as opposed to years in the past when the message that you had probably wasn't maybe so received at all.
No, I think that's extremely important. You know, just coming up, so I played some Division I football at Long Beach State, and I think about in the early 1990s, we weren't talking about mental health at all. And if there was a conversation around mental health, it surely was not in the football or basketball or baseball world. So the importance now of engaging around the topic of mental wellness within the context of sports is growing. The work that JD and Delon Wright have been putting together and making it a central focus of conversation is of extreme importance. So that's why we're really excited to be hosting this conversation, this panel this evening, and hopefully it's something that just continues to grow. It's extremely important.
It occurs to me that the idea of paying it forward that we're so much more familiar with these days, that what happens tonight, every attendee, no matter age, background, anything, will be people who will go and pay it forward and increase that awareness. Jared, it's interesting to see kind of the bookends of someone who can speak to the days of when mental health wasn't even broached to be a topic. Jared, you're not quite as far away from your playing days, your collegiate days. Talk a little bit about what the experience has been for you in being kind of more part of the modern era where we're inching closer, and I realize sports are different in some ways, but talk about your experience with this topic.
Well, you know, growing up, being an athlete, being able to play at the college level, a couple years professionally, I kind of understand the pressures of your own individual team, parents, the media, and now moving to the coaching side, working with the Detroit Pistons now, I get to see it from a different lens. So now I can take my experiences as a player, but as a coach, I can put myself in their shoes. And I just think it's very important that as a coaching staff and from that teacher's perspective, we pay attention to the mental stability of our athletes, just like we pay attention to their physical stability as well.
And certainly when you're talking about the pro game, it's a business, and if you're not approaching somebody's ACL tear with the highest possible medical technology that's happening now, you're saying we're falling short. Why wouldn't what's happening between the ears of these highly paid athletes be the same? Interesting that you're with an organization that in the old days had a reputation for toughness, and some of that kind of hangs around, and we can think of all of the Bill Laimbeers and Dennis Rodmans and a lot of legendary players, but I'm sure that the Detroit Pistons are no different than any other organization at the NBA level where they're taking that very serious, scientific and business-like approach to this issue as well.
Yes, the importance of taking the physical approach the same as we take the mental. We look at what they eat, we look at their diet, we look at injury prevention. Mentally, it should be the same thing. We should make sure that we don't hold one higher than the other. Really approaching them equally is very important. And from a broader perspective, coach the person, not just the athlete. I think that will help us understand that these players are humans first. Even at the professional level, it doesn't matter what their monthly paycheck is, they're people first. as well as players.
And coaching the specific athlete in the optimum way for them and the way that they're wired, so to speak, is something you got to do. That sort of one-size-fits-all, be tougher, kind of old school approach is not the way that it works, especially when you're investing in an athlete who could be an all-star if they have the right relationship with their team.
Yeah, I think it's very important as a coach to one, pay attention, not only with your ears but also your eyes. Be aware of their body language, things that may change in the athlete, and then don't be afraid to reach out or create an environment so that the player is comfortable letting you know, hey, look, I'm dealing with certain things, and not being nosy or intrusive on their personal lives, but give them a space and a platform so that if something arises, they're comfortable coming to the coaches that they see every day. They don't feel like, oh, all this guy cares about is how many points I'm going to score tomorrow.
Right.
I think that's important.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Dr. Yeager, talk, if you would, about designing an event like tonight. Are there ways in which your agenda or the topics that you address would be different with this audience than maybe not such a very, very specific sport?
Yeah, I think
focused?
I think that anytime you engage an audience around mental health, especially around youth mental health, each audience is unique, but there are so many transferable conversations that can really happen across sport. So anytime you talk about mental health, I don't think it necessarily depends on the specific sport. So in terms of what we'll be doing tonight, we really focused on honing in on relational, contextual, and systemic conversations around mental health, right? That is the mode of therapy that I engage with athletes, building a relationship, broadening and deepening the context of understanding the athlete. We use a model that I work with a lot of athletes and teams in building team cohesion, building team flexibility. A team's got to be flexible and adaptable and communicating, right? Teams will tell you communication within that team concept on the court, on the field is important, but off the court, off the field, communicating about who this person is, what their background is, that builds a level of cohesion that is extremely important. So I think it's not necessarily unique, the conversation specific to a sport, but it's unique that it's occurring. You spoke earlier about this being a kind of a new day and age in terms of engaging athletics and mental health, and we hope that it just continues to blossom and as we move forward.
Indeed. And one thing that I noticed about the camp and about, I'm sure that you guys and Delon as well agree on, it's an all-comers camp. So a lot of elite, invitation-only kinds of events throughout the summertime, especially in the game of basketball. But this is, you want to come to the camp, you sign up, you come, you have the experience, and I have to think that that's good for this larger dynamic that you all are working toward within the sport.
And with Delon, he's always been very intentional about making sure that his camp is for all levels of athlete, and whether you're a varsity player or just starting out at 7 years old, there's something for you here. And that's something that why I wanted to be a part of it from the start, is because his intentions are, we want everybody to improve, not only as an athlete, but holistically as a person too. And there's not many camps like that, let alone players, current players, having camps where the holistic portion of an athlete is being addressed. And that's why I think this camp is really, really unique.
It's just fantastic stuff. Doctor, if you would share information about tonight. I know it's going to be at East High, one of the great institutions here in Salt Lake City. Talk about the particulars.
So we'll be at East High tonight. The panel starts at 7. Doors open around 6:30. We're going to have a broad swatch of panelists that have a really deep level of understanding about athletics and being an athlete and the mental health side. So the convergence of folks that we'll have on the panel will be really cool. We'll probably be in conversation for about an hour. There'll be a Q&A. We're going to try to have enough time that we can really engage those panelists to bring out their expertise on the subject matter of the convergence of mental health and sports, and then allow folks to kind of be engaged, interactive with those panelists in the conversation. It's really a community-based conversation, and it really fits with what Delon is kind of pushing forward as a part of this community.
Well, on behalf of Park City Television, I hope that you'll carry our best wishes and gratitude to Delon and Jared and Corey, both of you guys. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's so important, and it feels to me like it's right in lockstep with success on the court and having happier but also better players, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
We continue the conversation about mental health, especially in the world of sports, where it's a long time coming, and it's a pleasure to have fellows in the studio who are doing that work on the front lines with the next generation of players. Quick break. We'll be right back with Rob Harder and Pete Stoughton after this.